We want tonight to be elegant, my mother said. Maybe we shouldn't bring her. My daughter nodded as if she understood. I stayed home with her. But I sent a gift basket. She opened it and turned pale. Dad whispered, not knowing what to say. My mother said it like she was discussing table linens. We want tonight to be elegant. Maybe we should not bring her. Her meant my daughter Ava. She was 7. She had a habit of asking direct questions and correcting adults when they were wrong. Apparently that disqualified her from elegance. The dinner was at my parents' house. My father had invited colleagues, investors, and a couple they kept referring to as brilliant. That word kept coming up. Brilliant people. Brilliant conversation. Brilliant wine. Ava was sitting at the kitchen island, drawing a map of an imaginary zoo. She looked up at my mother and nodded as if she understood exactly what was being decided about her. It is okay, Grandma. I can stay with Mom. My mother smiled, relieved. That was what hurt the most. I could have argued. I could have reminded them that Ava reads 2 grades above her level and knows more about astronomy than anyone at that table. But I saw the look on my father's face. He was already bracing for embarrassment that had not even happened yet. So I said fine. We will stay home. My mother squeezed my arm like I had done something mature. That touch made my stomach turn. That afternoon, Ava and I made grilled cheese and watched a documentary about coral reefs. She asked if Nana and Papa would miss her. Probably not, I said. She nodded again, and that quiet acceptance felt heavier than any argument. Around 6, while she was setting up her stuffed animals for a pretend classroom, I went into my office and pulled out a box from the top shelf of my closet. I had not opened it in years. It was heavier than I remembered. Inside were copies, documents, letters, a flash drive. I started assembling a gift basket. Wine from my parents' favorite vineyard. Imported chocolates. Artisanal crackers. On top, wrapped in gold tissue paper, I placed a leather portfolio. I included a handwritten note. Since tonight is about brilliance, I thought you might want to revisit this. I did not sign it. At 7:30, I sent the basket with a courier. I paid extra to make sure it would be opened during dinner. I knew my mother. She would not resist a dramatic reveal in front of guests. Ava fell asleep on the couch with one of her stuffed animals tucked under her chin. At 8:12 my phone buzzed. It was my father. I let it ring once before answering. What did you send, Lois? In the background I could hear low voices and the faint clink of glass. No laughter. Just something for the evening, I said. There was a long pause. I imagined the portfolio open on the dining table, the gold tissue paper crumpled beside it. Your mother just turned white, he said. I do not know what to say. I knew exactly what they were looking at. Because 25 years ago, at another dinner meant to impress brilliant people, my parents had made a decision about a child. And I had finally decided it was time everyone else knew. My father did not hang up right away. Lois, he said, what is this? You know what it is. Another silence. I could picture the dining room. The long mahogany table. The tall candles my mother saves for guests who matter. The leather portfolio open in the center like an accusation. We have guests, he said. That is the point. He lowered his voice. This is not appropriate. Neither was what you did. He ended the call. I sat there for a minute staring at my dark TV screen, my own reflection looking back at me. Ava shifted in her sleep but did not wake up. My phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. Lois, this is Daniel Mercer. Of course it was. Daniel Mercer was one of the brilliant guests. A venture capitalist. The kind of man my mother likes to introduce with a small pause before his name. I did not give him my number. Your father did, he said. We are looking at some documents here that have your name on them. They have my name because I wrote them. There was a murmur in the background. Someone said, is this real? Daniel continued. There are hospital records. Adoption consent forms. A letter addressed to a Dr. Caldwell. And a DNA report. All accurate. Your mother says you stole these. I laughed once. Stole them from my own life. He did not laugh. 25 years ago I said my parents were invited to a fundraising dinner. Important people were there. Investors. Donors. Politicians. My mother was pregnant. With me. That is not what these papers suggest, Daniel said carefully. Exactly. In the background I heard my mother's voice, sharp and strained. Put her on speaker. Daniel did. Lois, what have you done, my mother said. I sent a gift. You are humiliating us. No, I said. I am correcting the narrative. The documents in that portfolio show that I was not their biological child. I was the daughter of their housekeeper, Elena Ramirez. She was 19. She worked for them while finishing community college. When she got pregnant, my parents helped her. That is the version they tell. The real version is different. Elena's baby was born premature and placed in neonatal care. My mother had just been told she might never conceive. She saw an opportunity. The adoption was rushed. The paperwork incomplete. The consent signed while Elena was under sedation after complications. The DNA test from years later, the one I paid for, confirmed it. You are twisting this, my father said from somewhere near the phone. Am I? One of the guests spoke up. Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker, is this true? My mother did not answer. Daniel came back on. Lois, why send this now? Because tonight is about brilliance, I said. And brilliant people value truth. Do they not? Another long pause. Then my father said something that surprised me. He does not know the rest. My stomach tightened. Know what? I asked. But he had already taken the phone off speaker. The line filled with muffled arguing. Then it went dead. I sat there in the quiet living room, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and Ava's soft breathing. I had thought I was detonating a secret I fully understood. I was not so sure. I did not sleep that night. At 9:43 my mother texted me one sentence. Come tomorrow. Alone. No explanation. No denial. I almost did not go. But curiosity is a stronger force than pride. The next morning I dropped Ava off at school. He asked if Nana liked the basket. I said I think it made an impression. She seemed satisfied with that. When I pulled up to my parents' house, the front curtains were still drawn. The driveway was empty except for my father's car. No sign of last night's brilliance. My mother opened the door before I knocked. She looked smaller. Not pale anymore, just drained. Come in. The dining table was still set. Plates stacked. Glasses half full. In the center, my leather portfolio lay open. The documents were spread out like evidence in a courtroom. My father was standing by the window. You embarrassed us, he said without turning around. I embarrassed you, I repeated. Yes. I walked to the table and touched the DNA report. 99.9% probability of maternity. Elena Ramirez. You told people she signed willingly, I said. You told everyone you saved me. My mother sat down slowly. We did save you. From what? From her. The word landed wrong. Elena was unstable, my mother said. She had no support. No money. No plan. He had a baby, I said. My father finally turned around. He did not want you. That was new. That is not in any of these papers. Because it is not paperwork, he said. It is reality. My mother leaned forward, hands clasped on the table. The night you were born, Elena hemorrhaged. She nearly died. When she woke up, she panicked. She said she could not do it. She said she did not want to see the baby. She begged us to make it go away. Make it go away. My stomach tightened. You were in intensive care for weeks, my father said. We paid for everything. When she was discharged, she signed additional consent forms. Not under sedation. Fully aware. That is not what I found. Because you found the first set, my mother said. The emergency ones. There were more. She reached into a drawer I did not even know existed in that table and pulled out another folder. Inside were letters. Handwritten. Dated 3 months after my birth. The first one started with my dearest Lois. My name. Elena's handwriting was uneven but clear. She wrote about trying to visit and being told it would be confusing. She wrote about sending small gifts that were never acknowledged. She wrote that she hoped one day I would want to know her. I looked up. You told me she left the state. She did, my father said. After the visits stopped. Stopped by whom? Neither of them answered. Instead, my mother said something that made the room tilt. There is more you need to know. And it is about your daughter. My pulse spiked. What about Eva? My father glanced at my mother, then back at me. Last night, one of the guests recognized the name Ramirez. Daniel Mercer's wife. My mind went blank for a second. What? Her maiden name, my father said. Ramirez. She is Elena's niece. The room felt smaller. And she has been looking for you for years. I stared at them, waiting for one of them to say it was a mistake. You are telling me that out of everyone at that table, you invited a relative of my biological mother. We did not know, my mother said. Not until she saw the documents. Her name is Victoria Mercer, my father added. He grew up with Elena. The name meant nothing to me. But apparently it meant everything to someone else. What happened after that, I asked. They told me. When the portfolio was opened, there was confusion first. Polite confusion. Then Daniel started reading out loud. He thought it was some kind of misunderstanding. His wife leaned over his shoulder. The moment she saw Elena's full name, she froze. Victoria asked for the letter. The one that began "My dearest Lois." She read it silently. Then she said, "That is my aunt's handwriting." My mother tried to interrupt. My father tried to close the folder. Victoria asked one question. "Where is she?" That is when the room shifted. It was no longer about wine pairings or investment rounds. It was about a 19-year-old woman who had worked in their house and disappeared from the story. "Where is she?" I repeated. My parents looked at each other again. "We lost contact years ago," my father said. "She moved to Arizona. Then Texas. We heard she passed away." He said it too quickly. Victoria did not believe them either. She called someone from the table. Her brother. Put him on speaker. Asked him to confirm the date of their aunt's death. There was a long pause on the line. "She is not dead," he said. The words landed like a dropped plate. "She lives in San Antonio. She has lupus. She's not doing great, but she is alive." I felt something inside me split open. "You told me she died in a car accident," I said to my parents. "We thought she had," my mother said. "You thought?" Victoria stood up from the table, my father said. "She asked for my number. That is when Daniel called you." I ran a hand over my face. "So now what?" My father hesitated. "She wants to meet you." The air left my lungs. "Does she know about Ava?" Victoria asked if you had children, my mother said. We said yes. And she said her aunt always believed she would come back for you when you were grown. She never stopped talking about you. The image I had carried for years of a girl who signed me away without looking back cracked. I sat down slowly. "There is one more thing," my father said. "Of course there is." Victoria did not just recognize the name Ramirez, he said. She recognized Ava. "That makes no sense." "Does," my mother said. "Ava looks exactly like Elena did at that age." I thought about Ava's dark curls. Her wide, direct eyes. The way she tilts her head when she is thinking. Last night, in the middle of that elegant dinner, a woman I had never met looked at my daughter's school picture on your hallway wall and saw her aunt. And now she wants to see both of you. The revenge I thought I had executed so perfectly suddenly felt small. Because this was no longer about humiliating my parents. It was about the fact that the one person I believed had abandoned me might have been searching for me my entire life. And I had a 7-year-old at home who already knew what it felt like to be left out of a room. I met Victoria Mercer 3 days later. Not at my parents' house. Not at some polished restaurant. We met at a public park halfway between my place and her hotel. I brought Ava. I did not ask my parents for permission, advice, or approval. Victoria looked nothing like I expected. No diamonds, no designer stiffness. Jeans. Sneakers. Nervous hands. She crouched when Ava ran toward the playground, watching her like she was seeing a ghost. "She has Elena's eyes," Victoria said. I did not respond. We sat on a bench while Ava climbed a rope net and announced to strangers that she was building a rocket station. Victoria did not waste time. "My aunt never gave you up because she did not want you," she said. "She gave you up because she thought she was dying." That matched the hemorrhage story. But not the rest. "He told us your parents promised an open adoption. Visits. Letters. Updates. At first there were some. Then nothing. Every time she called they said it was not a good time. Eventually they told her you were confused after visits. That it was better to cut contact. That part felt true. I remember being told I had nightmares after meeting a woman named Elena when I was very young. I remember my mother saying it upset me too much." Victoria continued. "When you were 10, Elena drove to this city. She wanted to see you at school. She said she stood across the street and watched you come out with a backpack that was too big for you. She did not approach you. She thought it would cause a scene." I swallowed. Why did she not fight? She did. He talked to a lawyer. But the adoption was finalized cleanly by then. Your parents had money. She did not. Ava ran back to us, breathless. "Mom, can I get ice cream after?" "Yes," I said automatically. She ran off again. Victoria looked at me carefully. "She wants to meet you. But she is scared." "What?" "Of finding out you hate her." I laughed once. I built my whole adult life on the idea that she did not want me. I sent a basket to destroy my parents over that. And now you are telling me she thought I would hate her. Victoria nodded. There is something else. Of course there is. She hesitated. Elena never had more children. But she stayed in touch with our family. When she saw your wedding photo online years ago, she printed it. She kept it in her bedroom. My chest tightened. When Ava was born, someone tagged you in a hospital picture. Elena saw it. She said the baby looked like her grandmother. My grandmother. The resemblance your parents thought was inconvenient was the thing that kept a stranger in Texas going. When can we go to San Antonio? I asked. Victoria blinked. You want to go? I looked toward Ava. She was trying to help a smaller kid climb the ladder. Yes, I said. But on one condition. What? My parents do not control the story anymore. Not for me. And not for my daughter. Victoria nodded slowly. That night, I told Ava we might take a trip to meet someone important. Who? Someone who has been thinking about you for a very long time. He thought about that. Like a secret grandma. Something like that. She seemed satisfied. I texted my parents one sentence. We're going to Texas. My father called within seconds. You're making a mistake, Lois. Maybe, I said. But this time it will be my mistake. There was a long pause. Then he said something that made my hand shake. If you go, you need to be prepared for what she might tell you about us. We drove to San Antonio the following weekend. I told my parents the address. Not because I needed their permission, but because I wanted them to know I was not hiding. My father sent one final message. Call me after. That was it. Elena lived in a small one-story house with a cracked driveway and wind chimes that did not match. Victoria met us outside. Ava held my hand tightly for the first time since we left home. You do not have to do anything you do not want to do, I told her. She nodded. Elena opened the door before we knocked. I knew immediately. It was not just the eyes. It was the way she tilted her head when she looked at me, like she was trying to memorize my face. Lois, she said. No dramatic pause. No rehearsed speech. Just my name. We stood there longer than was normal. Ava squeezed my fingers. Elena looked at her. You must be Ava. Ava stepped slightly in front of me. Yes. There was something steady about my daughter in that moment that I had not seen before. He was not intimidated. He was curious. Elena invited us in. The house smelled like coffee and something sweet. On a small shelf near the couch, I saw a stack of printed photos. My wedding photo. Ava as a newborn. A screenshot of my college graduation announcement. You kept these, I said. I did not know if I would ever meet you, Elena answered. But I wanted proof you were real. We sat at her kitchen table. Victoria stayed quiet. I did not start with accusations. I did not start with forgiveness. I started with one question. Why did you stop coming? Elena folded her hands. Because your mother told me you were afraid of me. That tracked with my childhood memories. Nightmares. Confusion. Therapy sessions I barely remember. She said you cried after visits. That you asked why I looked different from your family. She said it was harming you. I looked down. Did I cry? Probably. I was 4. Elena continued. When I showed up at your school years later, your father saw me. He followed me to my car. He told me if I did not leave, he would file a restraining order for harassment. He said you were thriving and I would only disrupt your life. My chest tightened. I did not know that part. I was 29, alone, and scared of losing even the tiny updates they allowed me. So I stepped back. I thought one day you would look for me. I did. She smiled slightly. You sent quite an introduction. Ava, who had been listening quietly, asked a question that made all of us freeze. Why did they not want me at dinner? Lena looked confused. What dinner? I explained. The elegant night. The brilliant guest. The suggestion that my daughter might ruin the atmosphere. Elena's expression changed. They were ashamed of me once, she said. I suppose some habits stay. Ava processed that. Am I embarrassing? No, I said immediately. You are inconvenient to people who care more about appearances than truth. Elena looked at her carefully. You are exactly what you are supposed to be. The simplicity of that hit harder than any dramatic confession. We stayed for hours. We talked about ordinary things. Work, lupus treatments. No one raised their voice. No one performed. Before we left, Elena handed Ava a small box. Inside was a thin gold bracelet. Worn but polished. This was my grandmother's, she said. I always hoped I would give it to my granddaughter. Ava looked at me. Is that okay? It is your choice, I told her. She held out her wrist. On the drive back, my phone buzzed. My father. I answered. Well, he said. She's alive, I told him. And she did not disappear. Silence. Did she turn you against us? No, I said. You did that yourself. Another long pause. Are you coming for Sunday dinner next week? I glanced at Ava in the rearview mirror. She was asleep, the bracelet glinting against her wrist. Only if my daughter is invited, I said. And not as a liability. He exhaled. She is invited. Good. When I hung up, I realized something. I had tried to teach my parents a lesson with a dramatic gesture. What actually changed things was much simpler. I stopped letting them decide who belonged at the table. And for the first time in my life, I felt like the adult in the room.